Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. R. Rangaprasad, and I'm the Business Development Head at Packaging 360. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this webinar on advances in package testing for e-commerce and logistic business. We will just wait for a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, as we have participants still joining us. So we'll wait for 2 or 3 minutes as people are still signing in, and then we will get started with the session. Thank you so much for your patience and understanding. So I see people are still joining in, maybe just another minute or so, and then we'll get started. Okay, so good afternoon once again, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Packaging 360 team, welcome to the webinar on advances in package testing for e-commerce and logistics business. As you're aware, in the context of the current challenging situation, which has emanated over the last 8 to 10 months, we've all been under different stages of lockdown. But and even during these challenging times, we've had our regular quota of packaged foods, our essentials, medicines, and other industrial activity going on despite the pandemic. Logistics and e-commerce have come to play an important part in the last 8 to 10 months, and they have ensured that life still goes on in spite of all the challenges. Well, in this context, we decided that we will do this webinar, but more on the technical front, and acquaint ourselves with what are the recent advances in package testing methodologies and the various standards and regulations. And so for this webinar, we have delighted to have two speakers. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. Carlos Mora. He's a sales manager at Safe Load Testing Technologies from Spain. He comes from Valencia. A lot of experience and represents his company on various uh, regulatory and bodies like ISTA and other IAPRI. Uh, Mr. Carlos Mora will essentially discuss the advances made in instrumentation, the testing methodologies, and some case studies to back up his presentation. And also gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. Ram Ratan, who is the CEO of Sure Group. He has a lot of experience. He's a very passionate about new technologies for e-commerce and logistics business. And he will share some of his insights and actual hands-on experience as well as some interesting case studies related to the logistics scenario in India and what are the challenges faced by the logistics and e-commerce businesses in India and the way to overcome those challenges. So before Mr. Mora presents his talk, just a little background. We all learned in packaging schools about the various tests that are need to be performed for package to make it transport worthy, and these are what are called transport worthiness tests. We are familiar with the drop impact test, the inclined impact test, the vibration test, the rolling test, so on and so forth. That there are national and international standards which are easy to execute. But logistics and e-commerce businesses have matured much more due to the advances in testing, methodologies, instrumentation, and also the various standards and regulations which govern the e-commerce and logistics business. So taking this discussion forward, I invite Mr. Carlos Mora to make his presentation and share his insights on the advances in package testing for e-commerce and logistics business. Over to you, Carlos.
Thank you everyone to being here watching this webinar. And let me share with you my presentation. Just let me know if you can see it.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, perfect. So thank you everyone for watching this video, this webinar. Thank you Ranga Prasad and all the team in Packaging 360 that we are happy to work with. And as Ranga Prasad said, my name is Carlos Mora. I'm the sales manager of Safe Load Testing Technologies. We are a company that design and manufacture the testing equipment for packaging. We are a specialist in transport simulation, and that is what we are going to talk about. We are going to talk about what is this of transport simulation, what are the trends, what are the goals that the people is pursuing with this kind of technologies. And then we will finish with a small business case, and then I think Ram Ratan will be much more in deep in specific cases and so on. So first of all, the index we are going to follow as I advance. We are going to see and make a short introduction about what are the hazards, what are the forces that our package or loads are at the end, or our products are suffering, how to use the transport simulation as a tool, and then finish with how to simulate the different forces and what are the advantages we can get. So starting with the hazard and forces, here we have some numbers. You already know that there are billions of euros or dollars or whatever you want to call it lost because in product damages during transportation. So there is something that the companies must be aware of and need to think about. Also, there are different studies that indicate that 25% of the truck accidents are due to an unsecure load. It means that the company can lose not only money and image because of the product damage, but also can cause an accident and can cause many things that we don't like to mention, but can cost lives even. So it's something that we need to point out. Here, let me play some videos about what are the different situations our products can have. Okay, so, and at the end, when we are talking about transportation, when we are talking about packaging to protect the product, or packaging needs to be aware about all these forces, all these possibilities on the way. Now, when we go in deep with the different forces, the different stresses that your package are suffering during transportation, we can start with the static forces. In this case, when you start to stack different boxes, the box on the very bottom is suffering the force due to the other boxes. So it means the box needs to resist this force and needs to resist the force for a while. I mean, for for time and time. It is called the creep, and there's the creep resistance of the package. Entering in the dynamic forces, we can start with the impacts. We all know what is an impact, what is a hit, that can modify, can can collapse even the box, as you can see in the picture. Another dynamic stress that Ranga Prasad mentioned in his introduction is the vibrations. We can even feel the vibrations when we are in a truck or when we are in our own car. We are driving and we are feeling this kind of random vibrations constantly during the whole trip. So our cars are nicely equipped with the soft way to pass all these vibrations, but you can imagine in the truck the movement and the vibration are much heavier that we are suffering. So we need to be aware of that. What is our product resisting this vibration, these movements? So it's something that we need to know. And also another force, dynamic force that we are suffering and we can even feel too is the acceleration. When we are in a truck and we accelerate the truck or the car, it's the same. You can feel an acceleration even in your body, or when the truck or the car brakes, you can also feel that acceleration. This acceleration has the capability to deform your load. So we need to know that when we pack something, it's going to move a little bit. So we need to know what is this elasticity that our product and our package can have. Here a short video of what is the effect of the acceleration in this case in a palletized load. So let's start with more in depth with the transport simulation. Let's start thinking or mention what are the scenarios we can have or we usually have. When we pack something, we can be underpacking or we can be overpacking. You can see I think the image is quite, can explain it much better. But if we are in the underpack, we can understand that we are going to have more and more problems during transportation. We are going to suffer more damages in our product. It means an economic cost, but not only that, it only means damage in the brand image. Internet is full of pictures, photos, videos of people complaining about how the package arrived to their home completely smashed and the product is not safety enough. So it at the end means that other possible buyers or other possible customers look at that photos and say, okay, I don't want to buy it because I don't want to receive something that is completely broken. I want to receive something in one piece. On the other hand, the way to solve that is, okay, let's pack more and more the product. Let's protect it with more things, whatever we put, all the things we can put inside the box. And then we are in another part, that we are overpacking. Well, overpacking means there will be an efficiency in the logistics. It will be an environmental impact. We are using more materials. Doesn't matter which kind, plastic or carton or whatever. We are using more and more. What makes no sense, and we are wasting a lot of material. And also the brand image is a match, because also on the internet you can check many posts, many images or videos where people order, I don't know, a pen or something like that, and the pen arrives in a really big box. So at the end, it's also a really poor brand image. It gives the customer the idea that your company is not, how to say, worried about the environment. So if we translate it into something more, let's say, technical, probably, when we have a supply chain, we know or we can measure what is the distribution environment severity level. That is the dot lines you can see there. We have our product, then we need to pack the product, and then we can be in the two scenarios I mentioned before. We can be underpacking, I mean, we don't reach the severity level, or we can overpass the severity level with the two problems that I already mentioned. So the idea is to find this optimal packaging. And in some cases, what is even better is to improve the product. So with less packaging, I can reach this severity level. It is done right now in many different products like e-readers or something like that. The product is robust itself, so they just need to cover it with a carton or paper packaging. So at the end, when we are designing a packaging, we need to think not only in the packaging, but in the combination of product and packaging. Sometimes it's cheaper or it's much better to improve a little bit the product and reducing the packaging material. So everything I explained is summarized in this graph. You can see you are in the overpacking part. What we are having is a lot of waste in material, a lot of money spent in material. But if you start to reduce the material, less and less and less and less material, what is happening is that we are losing more and more and more during transportation. So there is a cross in between, and it's something that we can use the transport simulation for. Maybe our idea of as a transport packaging designer is to see what is this cross line. Obviously, the transport simulation is not something that we as SafeLoad created or only talk about. There are different stakeholders, different associations, different organizations that are involved in all this field. We all know ISO or ASTM, that they create norms to test everything, and they also have committees dedicated to packaging. In Europe, we also have EUMOS, that is an European association for transportation and logistics. And there are others like TAPI or FEFCO that we all know about cardboard boxes and so on. But when we talk about the transport simulation, the most well-known is ISTA or ISTA. You can say both ways. The ISTA or ISTA is the International Safety Transit Association, and it's an international association based in the States. And they have been developing different methods for many years now. And they are applied these methods are applied in all the countries all around the world. And there are many labs also all around the world. So it's the most important part. They develop the procedures, what they call the procedure. A procedure basically is a procedure in test methods. It means I have a box, and then I need to, first of all, I need to drop it 8 times, 7 times, whatever, in that height. Then I need to vibrate it for a while. Then I need to impact with an inclined impact tester. So it gives you all the steps you need to follow. So here we have the different series they mentioned, depending on what are the main purpose of each series. And I wanted to point in this field, in this webinar, the series number 6. Okay, because in the number 6, the series are developed together between ISTA and one customer. In this case, I wanted to mention Amazon. Ram Ratan is going to also to mention it with, later. But basically, what Amazon did is to join ISTA, to work with ISTA in order to create a procedure. So if you want to sell through Amazon, you need your package, your product and package needs to perform different tests. Okay, that's one of the big points. Then one of the questions is how to choose between the different test procedures. So here we have a table to be something easy to choose. For instance, imagine you have a box of 20 kilograms and you want to parcel delivery. Then you can see in the table, and you can see that your test or the test method do you need to follow, the procedure you need to follow is the ISTA3A. Okay, so that's the way to operate the ISTA different procedures. So now, jumping into the simulation of forces, I want to show you some of the forces I mentioned before, how it affects to the package, how it affects to our loads, and how we can simulate them. The thing to simulate, the point to simulate is to have something that you can repeat over and over again. It means if I want to design, I want to create a new box to transport whatever, to transport a pen, then we can design, but at the end we can have the chance to select one of the different alternatives I have, and then I could do one thing. I could transport both of them in a truck, and let's see what happens. But that's something that is not repeatable. So it means that maybe for this trip, specific trip with this truck, the option A was better than option B. But it doesn't mean that for the rest of the trips is going to be that way. So the idea is to simulate, to recreate this kind of trips, something more standardized, something not so specific. And then with all the data collected, we can simulate all this data. Okay, so the first point obviously is to record all this data. There are many data recorders with different brands. Obviously, we have our own. And with this kind of data recorder, you can record all the vibration, all the impacts, all the accelerations that your truck or your load are suffering. That way, after that, you can replicate. What kind of forces you can replicate? For instance, the kind of impacts that you can have. Imagine when you transport, in this case, a forklift with your boxes, you hit a wall, or you hit here the equipment, so you have this hit between the boxes. Okay, you need to be sure that your product is resisting that impact. Here we can simulate. Let me pass the video a little bit. So at the end, the idea is to put the load here, okay, in this carriage, and then you select the speed you need to impact from. The speed is what you record, or is what is indicated in the different procedures like ISTA or STM. They have what is the speed you need to reach. Okay, this kind of impact simulation. Another question is, as I mentioned before, the creep or the static force when you're stacking different products. And let me show you that not with a box, but with a tower of humans. This is here in Spain, that's in Barcelona. They are called the Castellers, and it's a really traditional here in this area. And as you can imagine, as you put more and more people on the top, the people who is in the bottom part is suffering more and more pressure, and they can collapse. Only with one that collapse, or the entire tower can collapse. Okay, so you can see in your right side, the people is starting to move too much, and the tower can collapse. And it's the same that is happening with your packaging. You have one area that is not strong enough, it can collapse. It can collapse your product, it can destroy your product. Okay, let me show you the video. Okay, and it collapse for the weakness point. Obviously, we can simulate that. We don't need to stack all the boxes. We can simulate with one simple compression tester. It's not something really amazing to see. It's quite slow when it apply a force and keep it for a while, or it applies a really heavy force, so you can see the behavior of your box or even the palletized load. Here we can see a box, and at the end we can get the graph that show us what is the resistance of the box and what is the time our box is going to resist that force or that pressure. Okay. As mentioned before, we also have the vibrations, so we can feel the vibration in our car, and it's not quite heavy for us, so we think it's not important. But let me show you this video of what are suffering the loads due to the vibrations inside a truck. The truck is moving much more than we are doing with our car or motorbike. The truck has worse device, equipment to absorb this vibration. So the results are this kind of movements inside the truck. And we are not seeing that because the truck usually is completely closed and we cannot see what is happening inside. But if we can put a camera, as we did in this video, we can see what is the real movement the loads are suffering. And obviously we can simulate with a vibration table. Let me pass the video, it's a little bit long. Let me sort it. Here we have the vertical vibrations. It means all the vertical vibrations that you can have in a road or in a train or in a ship, you can simulate them. Please note that the vibrations we are suffering when in a truck, on train or ship is a random vibration. It means that it's not always the same vibration, and that's all. It means we are now with this frequency, and then we are with more frequency, less frequency, all together, everything combined. So our table must be able to do the same. So here we can see an example of vertical vibration. Further than that, we can go and simulate also the other vibrations that we suffer, that are the pitch and the roll movements. When we brake, there is a pitch movement. When we take a turn, we have also a roll movement. So we can also add to this vertical vibration, we can add the pitch and the roll movements with this module in this case. And for pitch and roll, we can again simulate road, we can simulate ship, we can simulate train, we can simulate whatever we recorded in the past or any standard we want to use. Let me put you an example. That is a train, you can see. And now let's see the ship. As you can see, the ship is a movement. It's completely the opposite. It's softer, but it's more extreme in pitch and the roll, but the frequency is quite low. Okay, so it doesn't matter the mean of transportation you are using. You can always simulate what is happening in the real life. You can always simulate what your loads or your products are suffering, so you can be aware before launching the product. You can be aware of what are the forces you need to be aware of, and you can optimize your packaging. Other point that I already mentioned is the accelerations. Imagine your load are inside this truck, and this truck must stop to make an emergency brake. So you can imagine all the forces that are inside the truck. To simulate that, we have two options. We can simulate with a long machine, and where you can simulate different acceleration curves. We can simulate going forward and backwards. We can simulate any kind of horizontal acceleration we want. And we also have this version that is a shortest one. It's a really compact machine, doing also acceleration profiles according to the different international norms. And obviously, we will see that we also need to measure, in this case with the camera, what is the deformation I'm having depending on the different accelerations. So I can compare different products, we can compare different solutions in terms of primary packaging, secondary packaging, tertiary packaging, whatever. We can test everything and we can check. So if we can see that the load is resisting the accelerations in the track, then we can focus on optimizing this load. Okay, we will see later in the business case. There are one important point when talking about boxes. Okay, to design a box, okay, we can put the cardboard box or something like that, and it's not going to be a problem. But we need to know that our product are suffering different impacts, but also are suffering different drops. You can see in this video that's UPS or DHL, something like that. Any logistic company, sometimes the people working there are doing this kind of stuff. But I mean, it's not the logistic company's only problem. It can affect anyone in your warehouse or whatever. When you are handling a product or a box, usually they don't take really care of where they are managing. Okay. In fact, we did some studies doing the same route with a package, the same route with another package, exactly the same to the first one, but putting the fragile stick on it. And at the end, the results were exactly the same. The people don't really care if you put fragile or you don't. So we need to be sure that your product is going to resist all the impacts or the drops that can be happening in the handling in this case. So, and now that it's more and more common to make more and more steps during the supply chain, we need to think that our product is going to stop in warehouse A, then pass to logistics center B, then go to another warehouse point C. In all of them could happen this kind of stuff. So what we can do is to simulate the drops in a lab environment, period of shipment. And here we can see that we only need to select what is the height we want to reach, and then we just let it go. Okay, we can make drops in flat way, edge way, or corner in order to check or study the behavior of our package in all the different positions. There are another forces. One of these is the clamp, that is not really well known. It's something quite new that the people in this field discover, is the clamp forces, because as in this case, we can have a robot that is taking the boxes not from the bottom, but from the sides. So the robot itself is compressing the box in the horizontal way. So we need to be sure that your product, your box, is resisting this compression and is also resisting. Then we rise the product is not going to fall down on the bottom part. Okay, so we need to simulate, and we can simulate with a clamp tester. Here again is a little bit slow, so it arrives to the package, takes the package, and writes the package. And repeat this operation as many times as we want, usually between 5 or 10. And then we can be sure that our product is able to resist this kind of robot forces. So let's pass to the business case. I don't want to enter in really deep what is the solution, how we select the solution and so on. I only want to point a business case to let you know what are the things, what are the goals you can get thanks to the transport simulation. And in this case, it's a transportation of beer. It's one of the biggest producer of beer in Europe, and they wanted to send their own reference even further, increasing the business. They want to minimize the environmental impact, and they want at the end to optimize the package. They don't want to suffer damage during transportation. They want everything to arrive safely to the delivery center or supermarket or whatever, and they want to optimize the cost. It's always the matter of that. We need to be safe in the safe part, but we want to spend the less money as possible and the less materials as possible. So here we can see the kind of test we perform for this business case, acceleration forces in the longitudinal and lateral side of the load. Okay, so as you can see in this specific project, we are focused only on the stretch film, only on the stretch film. We don't really study in deep the primary or the secondary packaging. We arrive only to optimize the tertiary packaging. Okay, so this is the status quo and the alternative we propose with different stretch film, thickness 1, etc., etc. Okay, so here you have some numbers, but basically the idea is that we can compare what they have and what they are having now with alternative, so that the only way to do that is a lab test, because you are reproducing exactly the same input for both unit load, so you can compare the results of both unit load. So here we compare the both results. We saw that the alternative was strong, was safe, and then we compare the different numbers. We compare the numbers of the hours of machine use. I mean, if we need to grab the machine for 10 seconds and we can reduce it to 5 or 6 seconds, at the end of the year, we are reducing, in this case, more than 1,000 hours per year. So you can imagine it's also a matter of a lot of money saved in this. Obviously, we optimize the cost, the savings for this product only in the plastic, I repeat, only in the stretch film, are more than 100,000 euros. Okay, right now it's more or less $100,000 too. So it's only one specific project in this specific company who saved 100,000 euros. On the other hand, as we are reducing the plastic and we are reducing the stretch film used, we can say that we are saving plastic. You can see more than 100 tons of plastic were saved, and also obviously the CO2 footprint, because right now everyone is asking to reducing the CO2 footprint, reducing the plastic consumption. So how to do that? Well, the transport simulation tools help us to doing that. Okay, so I hope my presentation was clear enough about what is the transport simulation, why we need to simulate the transportation when designing a package, and what are the advantages. Anyway, as Rosate explained, we are having a questions at the end of the next speaker presentation, and I will be happy to answer all your questions. And here you have my contact details, so you can also write me an email or give me a call, and I will be happy to help every one of you. So thank you, everyone, and thank you, Ranga Prasad.
Yeah. Thank you, Carlos, for a very lucid presentation, taking us through the complexities and showing us how real life situations have been incorporated into simulation and devising laboratory test methods, and then evolving standards for the various kind of forces that the package is likely to encounter during air transportation, sea transportation, road transportation. And obviously, this has resulted in businesses like DHL, FedEx, Amazon, the Flipkart, all these companies growing their business on account of very systematic, scientific, and engineering approach to a safe delivery of packages. Thank you once again, Carlos, for your presence this afternoon and
My
lucid
pleasure.
presentation.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Yeah. So with this, what we will do is we will take, you can put the request to the audiences to put down the questions in the question box addressed to a specific speaker, and so that we can take it after the next presentation. So with this, it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Ram Ratan Singhi. He is the CEO of Sure Group. And as mentioned earlier, he has a lot of experience in the field of logistics. His passion is in interest, and interests are in technology and for the application of in the logistics business. So without wasting much time, the floor is yours, Mr. Ram Ratan.
So yeah, at the outset, let me begin by saying good evening, everyone. So I just want everybody to be a little more attentive and see if we can get a bit of information and knowledge sharing going by this presentation that we are going to have today. So at the outset, I want to thank Mr. R. Prasad for this fabulous idea of using this webinar to discuss about the potential issues that are there in e-commerce packaging. So I'm going to focus specifically with what is happening with regards to India. So I mean, let us see if this generates some interest in the audience to ask some questions, and that will be the kind of ultimate judgment for us that we have been successful in creating a good discussion. Yeah. So I'm about to start my presentation, guys. So can you all see my screen, full screen?
We can see the screen, but there is nothing displaying on the screen right now.
Can you check right now? Because I can see the screen and I had selected, yeah, I had selected the keynote where my presentation is.
I suggest we switch to, okay, we can see a screen now.
You can?
There seems to be some issue. We're not able to see it again. I suggest we switch to PowerPoint.
Okay, give me a moment. Could you give me that option again where you have to select? Yeah. Is this better?
Yes, could you go to full screen mode, please?
Okay, is it now visible to everyone? Can you confirm if it's visible now?
It's visible, but not in full screen. I suggest we continue with the current display.
You can go ahead. We can carry on. No problem. You can just, hey, yeah, it's okay.
Oh, okay. or you want me to go to this?
No. Please, you can continue the presentation. You can go back to the original slide, first slide, and then continue from there.
Okay. Yeah. So again, welcome to everyone for this presentation. I'm going to be talking on e-commerce logistics in India and what kind of packaging development and challenges we face here, particularly within Indian context. So the topics that I have listed for this particular presentation would be that we talk about e-commerce logistics. It's all about speed. We'll talk about packaging design challenges. We'll also talk about a typical process flow of how e-commerce logistics operates. And then
Excuse
we'll
me,
look at
Mr. Ramrathan, your presentation is not visible. You'll have to click on the, yeah.
Is it now?
The screen is visible, but the presentation is closed, I guess.
You'll have to click on one of those PowerPoint presentation. Yeah.
Is
This
it
is
better
okay.
now?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. So let me just see if this is the one I'm.
You can continue with this view, please.
Yeah, so it has opened this one, but give me a moment. Because when I'm doing a play here, now can you see my screen with first slide? This is okay. This is keynote.
You can see your screen with the topics in it. I suggest we continue with this.
I mean, now I'm scrolling down to the second page. So can you see the second page now?
Yes. We can see the second page.
Great.
You can continue.
Yeah, sorry. So I was talking about the process flow. Then we have, we will also show you something about how a long haul transportation of e-commerce happens in India. We'll look at some last mile delivery challenges, and then we'll look at the importance of testing of e-commerce packaging. The first thing about e-commerce is it's all about speed, right? We all know that when we click on anything that we buy on Amazon and we say we are going to get this delivered by Amazon Prime, there are certain specific instances where Amazon promises delivery within 2 hours in the same city. So it's really about speed, and this results in a very tough package handling environment. Particularly because the package has to encounter a lot of shocks and vibrations. There are at the warehouse level, there are sorters which operate at very high speed, and that also creates intense force on packages. Manual loading, unloading at last mile means that the packages are often handled by a lot of manpower, and that also has its own problems. So here I'll take you to this specific instances of how a package design, particularly for e-commerce, could be challenging. First thing is that a lot of e-commerce companies now want to move towards what is known as frustration-free packaging. So when you say frustration-free packaging, what it essentially means is that you can open that package without need of any knife or any other equipment, simply by pulling a tab or something like that. That's creating a new kind of design challenge for the people who are involved in the e-commerce packaging. Apart from that, you will also see that in the last I would say few months, particularly in India, that a single-use plastic ban is getting implemented. Globally, it has been implemented in few countries already. And due to this, companies like Amazon and Flipkart are trying to reduce the impact of their packaging on the environment through various means, reducing the extra packaging, switching from the filler material, which was earlier used to be a lot of plastic, to some other materials, and also looking at converting some of the cartons into some kind of envelope or some kind of plastic envelope packaging. Multimodal transport in e-commerce is quite common. So you could have the packages delivered by air, road, rail, and in the last mile, it could be even bicycles or simple motorcycles. Different levels of warehouse automation is another challenge that we see in e-commerce packaging, because there are large distribution centers which are quite automated in their operation, and then you have the last mile or the smaller delivery centers which are absolutely not automated at all. So you have these two extreme situation inside warehouses. Damages to the outer packaging would mean that there would be the package will obviously be returned by the customer, and therefore the e-commerce players have to incur a reverse logistics cost, and they are already working on an extremely small margin, so this could impact their profitability. In the process flow of any e-commerce logistics, you will see, so if we place an order for, let's say, a TV, it will get picked up either from the nearest dealer or from the nearest warehouse of the manufacturer. It comes to, let's say, the Amazon DC or delivery distribution center, and from there it again gets either repacked or packed according to their standards, and then it gets sorted via a sorter, and finally it is traveling by truck a certain mile, and then it goes to a distribution center. From there it gets delivered maybe by tempo or by some other means. So you can see there are multiple ways in which this package has been handled in the supply chain. The most interesting part about e-commerce supply chain is, particularly from Indian context, is what we see is, this postal model of delivery being adopted by these large e-commerce players. So when I say postal model of delivery, what it essentially means is that you have a lot of packages being packed into certain gunny bag kind of bags, and these bags are finally stuffed inside trucks for the long haul transportation. You can see in the picture here, it looks very haphazard. And now if you give this as a challenge to any package designer to design a carton, I am sure he will have a terrible time to understand what should be his ECT, what should be his BCT, what should be the stack height of the carton, because you can see there is nothing standardized about this particular kind of stuffing. This makes the job of package designers and testers very tough, as it is difficult to calculate the forces acting on cartons and packages. And obviously the damages inside the particular bags would be very tough to identify as to what really caused the damage. Was it because of somebody pushed the bag? Was it because the top bag had a lot of weight on the bottom bag? It's quite unpredictable. Manual loading and unloading would add further to this challenge, and still you figure out that there is no other way in India to do e-commerce logistics, as this is for the moment this is the most cost effective way to transport e-commerce packages. In the last mile delivery, again, you will see the picture here, depicts a very typical last mile bike delivery. And you will see this is a large bag, again, stuffed with a lot of packages. And this biker typically would not have so much information or idea as to which package is a fragile package and which is a more robust package, which he should place down and which he should place up. And besides that, he also has to encounter a lot of speed breakers, bad roads, jumping and jerking, and these bikes typically have very little kind of a way to eliminate those kind of jerks and shocks and vibrations. Bikers are often quite frustrated because of very harsh working environment that they work in, and you will see often them mishandling the packages. Poor training, as I just mentioned, they are not aware of what kind of package should be kept down and what kind of package should be kept up, and this creates its own challenges. So finally, from all this what we have discussed, we come to a very important subject of today, which is how is package testing going to solve some of the challenges, and why it's important that package testing methods are adopted by the e-commerce vendors and the suppliers and also the large players, so as to arrive at a uniform packaging standard. So what we know a little bit about this particular subject is that Amazon in its entire supply chain has been following a certain Amazon standards in package testing, and that has a lot of information and a lot of standard ways to test the packaging, whether it can sustain in their supply chain. The brown box of Amazon is designed to handle most rough handling in supply chain, and we figured out that this box is generally more stronger than the boxes we see outside in other particular industries. Moving
Mr.
towards
Ramrathan, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to know, are you still explaining the second slide or have you moved on? Because
I'm
we
on the
can still
last.
see the second slide.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
because we can still see the second slide. I believe if you have the option of, you can see the option of give keyboard and mouse control on the sharing options.
Yeah, okay. So I will give this
Can
to the
you can give it
CN.
to CNT? Yes, yes, yes.
Just a moment. There's a firewall here which is not allowing me to do that, and I'm trying to get through this, but it's not really going through.
Okay, I suggest you close the presentation and use upload and you restart it in PowerPoint and then
Okay.
share the screen again.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I opened the presentation in PowerPoint now. Yeah, I think now it's showing me, what I'm doing in terms of clicking. Can you guys see it now
Yes,
clearly? I
yes,
think now.
yes. You can continue.
So, so I hope that I was able to communicate some of via my talk what I was trying to show in the slides. But I'll again take you to just 1 minute quick slide so that everybody gets the picture at least what I was trying to say. Okay, so we were discussing about the e-commerce logistics, and it's all about speed and how you need to be, and there are various hazards that a package goes through when it's in e-commerce supply chain. In this slide particularly, you guys will see a picture of one carton which has got damage due to some bad handling, and this particular is very common in e-commerce. And this is what I was mentioning about that if you receive such a carton, most likely you would return back that package rather than keep that package. Coming to the order flow, so I think we all know about a typical e-commerce order flow and how it goes through various warehouses and distribution centers and the final delivery point. This is what I wanted to focus a little more on, because this is something I'm not very sure if this is very common in other parts of the world, but this is what is being done in India when it comes to e-commerce logistics. Be it any of the big players in the e-commerce space in logistics, they all use similar kind of approach when it comes to transportation from one delivery, one distribution center to another distribution center. And you can see it is very haphazard, and to do a package design or to do any kind of testing for package to be withstanding this kind of logistics is very challenging. And here I was on my slide just explaining about the last mile delivery challenges. Again, you will see that there will be 30-40 packages inside this bag, and this guy is taking them on a bike, and there will be a lot of jerks due to speed breakers, due to bad roads, and this package has to encounter all that. So I think the most important slide that I wanted to highlight today, and the focus was on this last slide, where we are discussing about the package testing per se, or how it can prevent some of the hazards that we discussed, and how we can reduce the amount of transit damages which are a part and parcel of any e-commerce supply chain. So I will just go through one by one again. So e-commerce packaging has evolved over the last decade to such an extent that now we have a certain Amazon standards in package testing. And this is something that Amazon has developed, which basically validates that if you pass the test, the package that you have designed can go through an Amazon supply chain handling and various hazards. The brown box of Amazon I was mentioning is better quality box. It's much more robust compared to other similar boxes which the typical industry uses. So this is again another area where Amazon has done a lot of work. Moving towards frustration-free packaging is an opportunity for package designers to enhance consumer online shopping experience. Testing will have to evolve with input from the field, different levels of package handling, which in some ways mimics the courier delivery or the postal delivery. Reduction in packaging waste regulations presents another opportunity for changing the film materials. For example, you have seen those small pouches or bags which are typically protecting a product. These are being now replaced by different kind of environment-friendly film materials. Testing of new methods and packaging materials is an ongoing process, and that requires up-to-date information about regulations and emerging consumer preferences. Ultimately, the goal of everyone involved in supply chain packaging should be customer delight. It is all for that one moment when customer opens his package, gets his order delivered damage-free, and gets that smile is when we all are delighted. So that's the objective of this e-commerce packaging at the end of the day, and we all have to strive to kind of achieve that. I think that's what I wanted to say for today, and now I leave the house open for the panel to take this forward.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ramratan, for this presentation. Sorry for about this small glitch, technical glitch in running through the slides. Now the webinar is open for questions. We have one question from Mr. Rajesh Gupta, and I think this is addressed to Carlos. The question is for you, Carlos. Are there different test methods based on the product like glass or metallic products?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, there are different norms depending on the type of package, but the type of product, sorry. But basically, it's more focused on the supply chain. It means it doesn't matter if your product is glass or your product or your package is glass or whatever, because at the end, what you need to reproduce, what you need to test is the different forces that your package and your product and package is going to suffer. So the transport simulation tools, the equipment, the machines, what reproduce is the track itself. It's not exactly something related with the glass or something related with the box. So there are some specific points when we're talking about some different products. Like for instance, there are different in the Amazon, for instance, they differentiate the TVs or something like that, different kind of products. But basically, what we simulate is the track itself. So what you can simulate is the supply chain, and it doesn't matter if it is a glass or it is metallic or whatever.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can we have some more questions from the audience? Okay, since the audience is still in the process of preparing questions, my question, I would like to ask one question to Mr. Carlos Mora. How often does the ISTA committee meet to revise its standards or on different kinds of package testing methodologies?
Yeah, there are a committee that is always reviewing all the test methods. Basically, as they also have a way to collect all the different tests that the people is performing and what are the problems they are having. When they detect something, they can update this specific test method. So there is not a specific time where they or us design or review a document or review a test procedure. Is when we detect that there is a need in that specific test procedure. Okay. On the other hand, we have also people or technical committees that we are thinking in new things, thinking in what is missing right now, and they are developing new tests. For instance, now there are people thinking in the acceleration test, what is the profile we need to apply, and so on. So there is not a specific time when we change the procedures, but when something that is detected that is really useful to improve the method, or when we detect that it's something that is quite old and nobody's using, so then we can think about removing this method or improving it.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Ramratan, there is a general perception among the general public in India that most of the e-commerce packages they are overpacked, and that you must have read in the newspapers also. People use a lot of material when it is not required. What are your thoughts on over packaging of simple products like, say, mobile phones or smaller items which are ordered online? You'll have to unmute yourself.
From our understanding of the way these packages are handled, as I mentioned that we have a lot of manual handling in India, and also the shocks and vibrations and jerks here are a little more maybe than in other parts of the world. So there is a tendency to do over packaging to protect the product. That's one part. And a second part, particularly with some very high value items like mobile phones, the risk is that there are instances where if the delivery boy or the person in the supply chain knows that a particular package is carrying mobile, there have been instances where people have played around with it, like remove the mobile, put something else, the package get delivered to the customer. When he opens it, he finds it's not mobile, it's something else. So to avoid these kind of challenges, they do try to kind of mask the product in such a way that the last person in the delivery chain should not know what is going inside that package. So these are the two reasons. One is the hazards which are there due to the manual handling, and second is this kind of instances.
Okay, fine. So there are no more questions. We would like to conclude this session. I'd like to thank both Mr. Carlos Mora and Mr. Ramratan for sparing their time. And hopefully this is a small effort on our part to be aligned with the developments that are happening in the e-commerce space. Hopefully this will generate a lot of interest. So with this, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Prasad. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Take care.